The term walking simulator may not have been created with the purest intentions, but it has for better or worse been embraced by genre fans to describe the unique narrative experiences that don't fit neatly into other categories. Sure, some of them have a puzzle here or there, and even the original Gone Home was developed by people who had worked on BioShock 2: Minerva's Den, drawing on their immersive sim experience to craft something more intimate and personal. But when the majority of gameplay involves walking around a space and examining things, you can't really knock the nomenclature. That being said, I love walking simulators. Much like I enjoy going to museums in the real world, walking simulators can provide interesting glimpses into a world I don't know a whole lot about. In fact, maybe they could start putting diary entries and audio logs in museums for me to find, or lock some Dutch master paintings behind a crate puzzle, I don't know. So when I started The Haunting of Joni Evers, I was pretty excited to enter another quiet suburban house and unravel the personal lives of its inhabitants. In that sense, it'll certainly draw comparisons to Gone Home. And actually, it's kinda weird that we don't see more Gone Home-likes. There have been a couple, but there's not really as many as you'd think. But unlike Gone Home, this house is actually haunted. After getting into a fight with her best friend, Joni cleans up the mess she caused only to find that the front door is not there anymore. And that's not the only odd thing, as ghostly orbs are speaking to her with written neon words, and she's getting weird headaches and hearing whispers from random objects. Well, not exactly random, as these items hold significance in her life and history, along with strong emotions that pull out her darker, uglier thoughts. As it turns out, there's an entity in the house trying to feed on those emotions, and Joni is going to have to come to terms with her complicated feelings and resentments if she wants to escape this nightmare. So let's first compare Joni Evers to its obvious inspiration directly. In terms of the house design and interactivity, Gone Home is a bit better in this regard, although neither crafts the most interactive space. While Gone Home does let you pick up a few random objects to observe, for the most part these games are designed for you to interact primarily with exactly what the designers want you to. Joni Evers will not be flicking any light switches. Another difference between the houses is the lack of secrets or crawl spaces in Joni Evers. Obviously, it was a treat to find these in Gone Home, and it was integrated into the storytelling, but the progression through Joni Evers is much different. It's designed to lead you on a linear path through the house, from a sitting room and art studio to the second floor and sister's room, to your grandmother's room, and then the basement. Yes, the basement is connected to the second floor. And then, after a major plot beat, you'll be retracing your steps back along that path. While this might seem like padding, it works in tandem with additional gameplay mechanics and the shift that takes place in the narrative. So I actually thought it was smartly designed, even though it's a lot more guided. Even though there's no sprint button, I never felt like I really needed one, though the walking speed could maybe have been a scooch faster. Though the setting of a suburban house is shared, the actual themes and story are not quite the same. Sure, there's an exploration of familial bonds and nostalgia for the past, but there are also parallels with the much maligned Bloober Team game Layers of Fear. But while Layers of Fear absolutely bungles its depiction of neurodivergence out of a desire to be spooky horror, which it also fails at, Joni Evers is a bit more nuanced. Though it's not outright stated, it seems somewhat obvious to me that some of the family members have ADHD, and the protagonist struggles with understanding it. And with the mother of the family having fucked off long ago on a nomadic adventure across the country, Joni also carries the resentment of having to take on most of the responsibilities of the household, while the rest of the family pursues their passions. You can also see with various documents and sentiments how certain institutions can fail the neurodivergent as well. It's not the primary message of the game, but I thought it was an interesting element. All in all, it's a decent narrative with some pleasing threads to tug at, and as much said as is unsaid. As you've seen, there is a supernatural slant to the game, but this isn't a horror game by any stretch. I'd say the ghosts and evil presence are more whimsical than spooky. They establish a hint at a larger shared universe, with various notes on the wall in the grandmother's room, newspaper clippings of weird events around town, the odd history of the house, and additional sketches and drawings. But aside from one central threat, most of these details are just a bit of extra color. They're neat, but neither add or subtract from the main story. Though walking simulators aren't really known for their action gameplay, the second half of the game does at least incorporate further exploration in the form of relic memory hunting, in which you pick up objects and make connections to other objects that become highlighted in the room. So, documents and drawers that couldn't be interacted with before that seem like they might be important finally get to play a role. Still, you're going back through the same exact rooms trying to find the right triggers to move the plot forward, so if you're looking for something more than this, like actual puzzles, you're probably going to be disappointed. What the game maybe lacks in variety, it does make up for a bit with its atmosphere. There's lovely orchestral string music playing in the background, scoring a lot of important moments, and the lighting is pretty nice as well. What brings it down a little is the performance, which struggles with that ever-present menace in PC gaming: shader stutter. It would happen constantly, especially whenever I entered a new room or made a quick turn. Which is kinda weird given that this game takes place in a house. It's a big house, but still a house. And it's not even the most furnished house since Joni is living alone and left a lot of her family's rooms untouched. You do have the portals that transport you from one part of the house to another, but we've had that technology since Portal in 2007, so that doesn't seem like it should cause issues either. For other people, the 3-hour length of the story might seem somewhat short, or that $15 is a tall ask for 3 hours, which I kind of find ridiculous. Walking simulators aren't made more meaningful for being longer, and honestly, the price-to-length ratio discourse has always been a little silly to me. Like, yeah, I could spend 1,000 hours in a free-to-play idle game without spending a cent, and some $70 AAA games are less than 10 hours, but they're kinda different games with different aims, aren't they? It's kind of funny because this exact discussion happened when the original Gone Home launched at, you guessed it, $15. Of course, back then, people just wanted to yell about how it wasn't a real game. Now those people are yelling about bringing back segregation, so I guess no one has time to girl boss gatekeep the walking simulator genre anymore. So the real question is whether Joni Evers is worth a play to actual walking simulator fans, and I think it is, although it lacks some of the bells and whistles of others. It's not as beautiful as Still Wakes the Deep or as interactive as Firewatch, and certainly not as spooky as SOMA, but it tells a decent emotionally resonant story about reconnecting with the people you care about, and not getting stuck in your own head. As far as the larger supernatural elements, we'll just have to see where that goes in future games, but they're not too weird and mostly work here, though I maintain the villain is more than a little silly. It's like I'm being attacked by a 2000s hacker. What's your favorite walking simulator? Let me know in the comments. I'm partial to the Magic Circle and the Beginner's Guide myself. I guess those are both a decade old at this point, but I still love them. I've got more videos about indie games in the works, including another big Next Fest video in the month of March. I'll also be covering other topics like animation and retro games, including the next Patreon Voter's Choice, Bahamut Lagoon. So keep coming back every week, or hit subscribe and the bell if you're the forgetful type. Thanks for watching the video, and until next time, you'll find me in another castle.